Good morning, family. This is Dr. Ross. Welcome back to the channel. We got the trailer looking really good. And now we've got another new addition. Getting ready for the big property. We've got ourselves a lawn tractor. I found 19 horsepower Ariens. It's Ariens. This thing came pre-installed with just a whole bunch of spiders. Black widows crawling all over the place out of there, so first thing I figured when I get it home is to spray her down. Alright, it's the Ariens Kohler 19 horsepower. So we've learned about old fuel. We're not screwing around with old fuel. So we've got the fuel tank off. Gonna do a good scrubbing on it. I wasn't filming, but this is real easy. There's two 10mm bolts to hold the fuel tank in, and super easy to pull it. It goes right in there, and we're gonna get it really good and clean, all new filter, and clean the lines out. Got the battery out so we can service it, test it, and clean in where the hole goes. The connections were terrible, so we're going to work on that. Still got a lot of scunge here. And do some general cleaning. The motor was so dirty for having such low hours. There was oil everywhere. I suspected that the old man had overfilled the oil, and sure enough, crankcase was half a quart high. So I drained half a quart out of it, cleaned it up, and we are perfect now on the dipstick. So we're considering that done. Oil looks like new, it was just way overfilled. Filter cleaned, fuel tank cleaned out. I got a new fuel filter on. What we know about it, the owner was a Korean War fighter pilot. He flew the A4 fighter jet in Korea. He died at 94 in the nursing home, and he had this. Must have been his last fun thing. It appears to have very few hours on it. It also has some EPA stickers around and some California-ish looking labeling on the emissions, which leads me to believe that it may have been originally sold in California. These are called a dead man switch, where the seat has to ground out on the battery so that it'll run. The way you bypass it is just take this ground wire out, ground it out, but we're going to leave it that way. Good safety feature. If you fall off, the thing will shut down. Alright, well here's what happened. I got home with the filter and hooked it all up, and the fuel was coming right out of the carburetor, and it just kept running out and running out of the carburetor. So I had to get a vice grip and clamp off the lines because I have fresh fuel in the tank. So the carburetor was definitely leaking. So I pulled the carburetor off, and the bowl comes off the bottom. It's got a solenoid on it there. And when you take this off, you find a float inside with the needle. And the needle is the little valve that lets the fuel in. I called all over town. And at Pape, where they do the John Deere, I have a new carburetor kit. And it appears to have the right needle in the kit. So we're going to be able to get this running again. It seems pretty obvious that someone was already trying to figure this out and didn't get it fixed. This looks like a fuel cutoff solenoid. Not sure why it doesn't seem to be working. This float bowl gasket on the bottom of the carb doesn't look too good. Let's see what we get in the kit. Evidently they make this engine with a fuel pump or no pump. This is probably the needle for the engine that has a fuel pump. And I think this will be the needle for the engine that does not. I suppose we could actually read the note. Use inlet needle valve in carburetors that have the brass valve seat and are dated after 2553. Well, this needle looks very similar to the one that's coming out. The hole that it goes in is right here, and that is technically the seat. So this would be needle and seat. When it goes in there, it's supposed to shut the fuel off. We also got a new float bowl gasket. That's great news because that thing is bad. Clean this up real good. Obviously, if we have shavings, we want them to go away from the inside of the mechanism. I'm going to scrape it first and then clean it so that any filings or scrapings that got in there are going to go away with the cleaning. One more gasket. That one's really stuck on. Okay. All the gaskets away. Do a little cleaning. Use some of my favorite Berryman's carburetor cleaner. I really appreciate the old guys service to our country as a fighter pilot in the Korean War. I think he got hold of this mower when he was a little too old though, and done a few things wrong. Had old gas in there, had the oil way overfilled. Somebody tried to fix the carb for him, which undoubtedly was a problem because it had been sitting so long. But now we've got the doctor on the job. This is the back one. The other throttle goes right here. Alright, those are on. There is a gasket that goes back here. This little actuator for the cutoff solenoid. That plugged in. Okay, and then in front of that we have this other gasket. And then in front of that this unit for the air cleaning. All of this is held together with just these two nuts. All right, should be able to unclamp the fuel right away. As soon as the bowl fills up in the carburetor, if the float and needle are working, should cut the fuel right off right away, so we shouldn't be having any more leaking fuel. Like I said, these two nuts are holding everything together, so I want to make sure all the gaskets are lined up and it's kind of in its happy spot. This back stud floats a little bit. Well, one of the blades was badly bent, and I thought I'd try to straighten it, but I also found out that they were ruined when somebody tried to sharpen them by sharpening both sides. You wouldn't sharpen a blade like this like a hunting knife on both sides. One side is flat and one side is sharpened. If you look at a brand new blade, you'll see it's only sharpened on the top and the bottom is perfectly flat. It's very similar to a scissors. A scissors blade is flat on one side and sharpened only on one, so that it can cut. If you were to sharpen both sides, you'd ruin the scissors. It would never cut. And a lawnmower blade is like that, only sharpened on one side. So not only were these bent, beat up, and ruined, but they were sharpened in such a way that I couldn't save them. So I get some new mulching blades for it. They were cheap. They were only like 15 bucks a piece.